Hey guys, today we'll be talking about our new stock project rubric. This is a major assignment that you guys will need to complete for your AACSB accreditation, which allows this class to transfer to other courses as part of the business core requirements when you choose to go to another school or another university. So it's really important that this gets completed and that you do your best job. Overall, our course objectives would be to describe the company that you've chosen for your stock project, talk about its structure, some of the leading or major roles and responsibilities that outline that organization. You're also going to discuss financials, market position, the ethics of the company, what their marketing plan is, what employment opportunities are available, and other aspects for the publicly traded company. Okay, so let's dive into it. Part one is the company description and history. So this is worth 10% of the overall project grade. You're going to talk about just the basics of the company. What type of industry is it involved in? What is their business? How do they make money? What are the different roles or regions or components? Or how is that company structured and broken down? Name some of the head management. Who's the CEO? Who is the CFO? What other key roles play a part in the corporate structure? So next, you'll go over the company history and overview. So talk about some of the major highlights, some of the milestones that the company occurred. When was it founded? What major achievements have they gone through? What major restructuring or purchases or acquisitions have they gone through? Make sure that you list several items under this area. And you're always in every section going to use credible sources, and you're going to document those sources, not only in your bibliography at the end of the project, but also within the paper. So make sure you have a footnote and it's related to the no numerical citation at the end of the document. So one way to go about finding the company description and finding the history would be to go to the company's homepage. So here, since no one is able to choose Apple, I'm going to go to apple.com's homepage, scroll all the way down, and here you can find About Apple. You, there's a listing for the newsroom. Here, it gives you a section for the leadership, some career opportunities that are available, investors, and so on. So this gives you a lot of information just directly through the homepage. You can also go to Yahoo Finance, and I'm going to type in Apple. So there's their stock symbol. Once I enter the stock symbol, it gives me some basic information about Apple, which includes, let's see. There we go, Apple Inc. overview. And if we want to find out more about it, there's a full description here. Now, you don't want to just copy and paste the description, but you can derive a lot of important information from this area alone. All right, let's move on. Part two, financial statements. So you're going to include a balance sheet, an income statement, and a cash flow statement from the latest year-end closing for your company. You want to demonstrate that you understand the purpose of these key financial documents. So we haven't been through chapters 14 and 15 yet at this point in the class, but we will be going over these in the next 2 weeks. So you want to demonstrate how the key components of these financial statements relate directly to the company's performance. Then you want to have a clear layout, make sure that you have subheaders, and label all of your sections and cite your sources. So one way we can find these financial statements is to go to edgar.com. Actually, let's just put Edgar in the general search. So here we want to go to the Edgar full text search. Click on it. Here it says you can search by keyword, ticker symbol, company name. So I'm going to put my ticker symbol in. It defaults to the last 5 years, and that's just fine. And we're going to find our company's Form 10K. There we go. And as you can see, several 10K reports are listed. The most recent date is going to be the last year-end closing filing. So they closed at the end of September and filed at the end of October. So this is going to be my latest one. It doesn't always go to the year end, like when we file our personal taxes. So here we're going to click on Open Filing, and then we'll click on Interactive Data. From the interactive data page, we used to have a way to be able to download it directly, but the government turned off that availability for us to do. So we have to click on the subheader Financial Statements. Here we can find our consolidated statement of income, our balance sheet, and then our statements of cash flows. So we can use any of these and make sure that it doesn't say consolidated twice. You want consolidated statement of income, consolidated balance sheet. Don't use the consolidated, because that will be a very small segment and you won't be able to derive what you need from it. But then you can do a few things. You can take a screenshot, you can copy and paste this data in or into an Excel sheet or directly into Word as a photo. You don't have to recreate this data as long as it's present. You'll get credit for the portion of having that available in your document. So they need to be included: balance sheet, income statement, and cash flow statement. Sometimes you may not see those explicitly stated. It may have a slightly different name. So just if you do a quick Google search, you can make sure that the cross-reference is okay. As long as they're US-based companies, you should have a 10K. If you don't see a 10K at all, then it may be a 10F. And you may have to use the last year, the last quarter closing for the 10F, but reach out to me if you have further questions. So, um, again, you want to map the company's performance to what's contained in the financial statements, and you want to label your section. So that's the financial statements portion. Part 3 is the auditor's opinion statement. So the auditor's opinion statement is also located in the 10K. So you can find it through Edgar, as shown you before. You can also find it through the company's website in most cases. Here, again, I'm on the Apple homepage. I'm going to click on Investors. And I'm looking for anything that says annual statements. Here we can see, okay, we have the latest 10K. They already know that we want it. So if you have a Mac, you'll hit Command F and you can do a text search, or you can scroll through the table of contents to find the auditor's opinion statement. Okay, we've served as the company's auditor. Ernst & Young is an external auditing company, so we know we found our auditing report. So here we can use the opinion on the financial statements. These two paragraphs constitute the auditor's opinion statement. So we can directly copy and paste this in to our final document. Now, in addition to that, you want to interpret, what does it mean? What does the auditor's opinion statement mean about the reliability of the company? And this depends specifically on the output of the auditor's opinion statement. So then you want to explain those findings and what it means for that company, for the industry, or anything else related to the auditor's opinion statement. Part 4 is the financial ratios. So it explicitly names the current ratio, the PE ratio, and the EPS ratio. So you're going to want to find a current listing, and you can do the previous quarter or you can do the current day's listing. There's not a huge fluctuation day by day, so around the time that you turn in your report, the current ratio should be close to what I find. It doesn't have to be exactly, but it's usually within, 100th of a point. So then you're going to link the ratios to the overall condition and market position. So, what does this ratio say about the performance of the company? What does it say about the performance of the company versus the industry? How do other companies, performance ratios measure up, specifically its major competitors? And then, of course, you want to make sure that your data is accurate and make sure that you reference, as in the entire project, you want to reference and footnote all of your information. So, to avoid plagiarism. Part 5 is the stock chart and trend analysis. So you're going to include a 12-month chart with labels and time frame. One way you can do this is again through Yahoo Finance. And to go back. Got it. Okay. Here's an interactive stock chart. So you'll want to do the previous 12 months. So make sure that you're not doing year to date, but you're doing the past year. So this, you know, this goes from March through December and ends the beginning of 2026. So I can simply take a screenshot of this and add it to my report. Once you've done that, you can perform an analysis of the price trends, the highs, the lows, and the valuation. So in my year to date, I can see some significant drops and some significant increases in the stock price. So you can look through the news, look through highlighted events or public releases of company information during those time frames to try to understand why the stock fluctuated at those times. And did it mirror the overall industry? Did it mirror the stock market in general? Did all stocks go up at that point? Was there a significant press release or perhaps a scandal, something that impacted those areas in time? And then you're going to want to talk about that. So make sure that you cite any news sources and again, add your footnotes. Part 6 is the company analysis. So you're going to synthesize findings to assess the company's financial stability and trends. Synthesize means that you're taking all of the data, all of the news, all of the research that you've done up to this point to make some summary analysis of how the company is doing overall, what its projections would be for the future, and how stable you think that the company is. You're going to evaluate the leadership structure, any innovation that the company's had, which means that you want to mention some innovation that has occurred and say anything major within the last 3 years, and competition using credible data. So don't come up with assumptions or, conclusions based on a limited amount of data. You really want to put some meat in here. The company analysis should be a couple of pages long, maybe 4 or 5 pages. And you're going to want to spell out what the competition is doing, what your company is doing, and how you interpret that information to lead to your conclusions. For management structure and effectiveness, assess their performance, assess their leadership roles. You've identified who leadership is in the company up until this point. So check the news on them. Is there any significant or interesting news? Have there been changes in leadership over the past year to 2 years? Or if the company is more stable, you might go as far as 3 years into the past to see how the management structure has changed and if there is anything significantly positive or negative affecting the company. So you'll use that data and you'll create an analysis and you will build your argument based on research. So part of the grade is demonstrating critical thinking and synthesis. So not just listing facts, not just putting general information or, making a positive connection to a positive press release, but really going across all of the information and providing conclusions that are well thought out and well substantiated. Part 7 is the personal opinion and ethical evaluation. Part should be a lot of fun. You're wanting to go into the ethics of the company, research um, their principles, research their corporate social responsibility. How have they acted ethically? What does the news say about them? What do they say about themselves? Um, you can also talk about any major employment opportunities or major employment reductions, right? Amazon is trending, layoffs to the tune of tens of thousands of individuals lately. So that would be something I would include in my Apple report. And then make a conclusion on whether or not you would work for the company or you would compete against the firm. This goes over and above, well, Apple's a large company. I wouldn't want to compete with them because I'm a small company. It's more about whether you would align with their culture, with their principles, with their level of innovation and so on. A lot of startups have a competitive advantage because they are smaller, they're more agile, and they're able to innovate faster. So keep those considerations in mind, specifically if you have entrepreneurial aspirations. For the investment decision analysis, you want to provide reasoned conclusions about your investing. So, would you invest in them? Would you suggest that your listener or reader invest in them? Why or why not? Make sure that your writing is engaging, that it's well reasoned and clearly written. So, again, we're not just listing facts or we're not just listing opinions. We want to balance the two to make an interesting and insightful analysis in this paper. Overall, and this should really be negative 10 points because if you add them all up, it equals about 110 points. So the way the rubric is sent to me, this is 10 points of your grade, but it's really detracted if it's missing. So I would think of it in that way. So organization. Overall, your project needs to have a cover page. It needs to be well ordered to include a table of contents which matches the headers and subheaders, and then have all of the different sections labeled within your report. You want to sort your sizes, sort your cite your sources using APA, MLA, or Chicago format. Any of these is absolutely fine as long as you are consistent and there's no plagiarism detected in your work. Lastly, have a sense of professionalism in your writing. You don't want to have an excessive use of the word I or anything that's grammatically incorrect. You want to check for spelling, check for formatting, look at the overall report before you send it in, or if you are an in-person section, before you print it out to make sure that it's clean and consistent and gives a level of professionalism that you have evidence that you have completed a major goal and that you're proud of the result. That is all I have for the stock project rubric walkthrough. Please reach out to me with any questions that you have along the way. I'm here to support you throughout this project. And again, I want you to complete something that is well thought out, well written, and that you can be proud of. I still have my physical copy from when I completed it as an undergrad at Texas State. And I can also see how far I've come since then. But it definitely marks a milestone in my educational career, and I'm sure it will do the same for you.